Hey, Crawl Spacers, welcome to our April 2022 Spider History. And you can't do Spider History without George. What's going on, George?
Couldn't do Spider History without me?
Yeah, I'm mixing it up.
All right.
You get the first word. Welcome.
Ha 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 ha! I wish I'd had. I wish I'd known that going in. I'd have planned something better than Monocle.
That's all right. We also have Spider History with the man, the myth, the legend, JR. What's going on? Whoa, wow! The 2-liter of Diet Mountain Dew.
Well, it's going to be a long night, because the fans demanded it.
It did. They have. They've been asking for Spider History for months. Like, where is it? Where is it?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I can't imagine why they would be wanting something other than that Beyond crap that's going on right now. But
are you reading Beyond, JR?
Fuck. Heck no.
I'm 1 minute and a half into the April broadcast, and you're dropping an F-bomb. So that's a no, huh?
Brad, you're asking these offensive questions.
Oh my God!
Why should I read Beyond when I can listen to the Spider-Man Crawl Space reviews and actually hear Brad Douglas criticize it?
Yeah, I'm the lowest vote every month on these books because I'm not digging it. I've become the old man on the show when you guys are gone. That's interesting.
Yeah, but see, the thing is, though, I show my age, whereas you kind of took care of that to where you look eternally young.
You bet your sweet bippy. All right, let's, we are going back to, what year is this again, JR? Help me with this.
Oh, my Lord.
April.
We are going back into the 70s, boys and girls.
Okay, 1970 what? What is it?
It looks like 1976.
76. I was 1 year old when these issues came out. So we're going to do a time travel story, but we're going to hit up the Amazing Spider-Man issue that came out this month, which was ASM 155. I will pull it up right here. Good looking cover. I think that's Romita looking. Yeah, it's a bunch of different panels inside of a web, which is always a good deal. So take me through this one, JR.
Oh, I was about to say, now that we're going into the 70s.
Yeah. Oh, smell that dying
smell of rotting wood pulp.
Here, take another sniff. I want to see it. Take a drag. Okay. Roll up that comic. Oh my gosh. Hey, real quick, what's on the back of that comic? What? That's some dude with a big. Oh crap, he's dead.
Okay. Well, no, it's just the
great, Brad. You killed JR.
I apologize.
I was about to say drugs are not good on
no, they're not.
A heart at this age. Oh, it's just one of these ads for LaSalle Extension University. Look who's smiling now.
Oh, so you can join a university by cutting out the back. So that's your application for the college, is to cut up the back of your college comic?
Well, it's a correspondence institution.
Oh, that's a 1970s virtual school is what that is.
Yeah, University of Phoenix, circa 1975. Where you send us a check and you send us a check and we'll send you a diploma. So,
go ahead.
All right, it's not selling grit though. I mean, I miss the grit.
Wow,
you too didn't sell grit.
Here, help the youngsters with grit, including myself. What was grit? It was a magazine or newspaper, wasn't it?
Well, yeah, it was a form of child labor. Because this magazine publisher named Grit convinced all these Boy Scouts that you could make extra money by peddling our product and earning next to nothing.
It was like Amway for children.
Yeah. And,
real quick, Mr. Comics 89 says, JR cussed for my birthday, the best gift ever. Happy birthday, Mr. Comics 89. Here's your F-bomb wrapped up with a bow, with an effing bow.
Maybe I should do cameos.
Oh, jeez.
Oh,
George, can you imagine that?
Cross-face cameos. You get one from JR. Yeah, I hear you're getting married. Your buddy Larry paid for this for you. Why are you being stupid and doing this? You're free, for God's sakes. Run for the hills.
I cashed the check.
Here's a Norman Osborn line. And then he just, and then there you go. Thank you, $500.
Oh my, JR cameos.
JR's getting on Cameo. Gas prices got me going. The OnlyFans selling feet pics on on the internet. It's tough times, Brad. It's tough times.
That Cameo's filling up his gas tank. Uh, Hornacek, how many of us would pay for a JR cameo? You'd be surprised.
Actually, but at least one person would.
Yeah, I know. All right, take me through this issue.
All right. First of all, we got
55 minutes, Fettinger.
Well, 52. I'm looking at 908, but
Yeah,
Missouri,
I got
my bad.
52
but
left.
it's probably a little bit earlier or behind in Missouri, because Missouri is always behind.
Yeah,
in so
Missouri's
many
a little slow.
I apologize. I was looking at how long we've been on the air. We've been on the air 6 minutes. It's now 8:08. Yeah, go ahead.
So anyway, as you recall, boys and girls, earlier in issue 153, which is actually one of my favorite all-time issues of Spider-Man, Peter Parker and Spider-Man came across a Dr. Bradley Bolton, who was working on some supercomputer, and of course the Kingpin. We didn't know it was the Kingpin, but we later found out the Kingpin's goons were trying to get something from him, so they kidnapped his daughter, and he ran down the 100 yards of a football field. But anyway, it's a really good story. So anyway, so this is kind of some following up on some loose ends from that. Jonah and Peter are going to this presentation of this supercomputer that Bolton was working on with an associate of his, who his name is unimportant, but I think it was Dr. Armstrong Smith. So anyway, this is one of those things that you read this, because I was reading this and I was getting a kick out of it. It's like they're working on this supercomputer. Okay, it's going to catalog all worldwide habitual offenders, and now that it's completed, it will be of intimidable help in deterring crime in our streets. And I'm thinking, yeah, that worked. That worked, right?
Called the internet.
All we got to do is have this big computer database listing all the criminals, and that'll take care of crime.
Yeah,
we got a lot of databases full of criminals' names, and I don't think it's stopped anybody.
Yeah.
So
all it is a card catalog, like in the library.
Pretty well. But it was, I don't know. It's funny. I mean, it's back years ago or whatever, people just had all these science fiction ideas of what technology could do, and all it's done is solve some problems and created others. But anyway, we find out that the doctor is dead, and not only is he dead, but he was killed by a bullet from a small caliber gun. There's only one problem: they can't find the bullet. That doesn't make sense. So Peter goes, well, I'm the amazing Spider-Man, the world's greatest detective. So I owe Bradley Bolton something. So Bradley Bolton, I wonder if he's any related to Michael Bolton or whatever.
It's like if me and Michael Bolton had a kid. Thank you, Milo, for the super chat. Appreciate that.
So Spider-Man decides to, he goes to the supercomputer itself,
This is funny. What's the password? Is it password 1976?
Yeah, I mean, it's like, and he gets, but I'll tell you though, well, even though it was even though, you just don't go, even in the 70s, you just didn't go in and turn on a computer and get in. But it isn't been that long ago that all the security, everything has become so relentlessly crazy. But I guess it has to be, with Vlad's army out there trying to bust into every computer, and Xingping's army trying to bust into every computer, whatever, and bring the U.S. economy to its knees. But
we're doing that well enough on our own.
Yeah, but I digress. So Spider-Man just goes to the computer and who could commit such a crime? And then the computer gives him 3 names. Well,
how convenient.
Yeah.
Supercomputer indeed.
Thanks, Jason Sledge, Leroy Talon, and Conrad Fox are the suspects before the end of this book.
So Spider-Man decides he's going to go looking for these dudes. Well, of course, Jason Sledge is no hitman or whatever. So, he used to hang out on the Lower East Side, which at that point in time really was the Lower East Side. Anyway, so he goes into this bar, and I love these next 2 pages because they just show how strong Spider-Man is. They show how strong Spider-Man should be portrayed, and these guys, all these big muscle-bound guys decide to threaten him, and he just, there you go. and then this other guy, and then the next guy, he just like
Whack.
Black. I mean, that's Spider-Man.
That's cool,
again,
man.
He should not be afraid of any of these punks. And then it's like, tell me where to find Sledge before I dance the hustle on your face.
Dance the hustle.
And
do
of
the
course
hustle. Audience, feel free to join along.
Yep. Anyway, so he's looking for Jason Sledge, and he finds him, but turns out Jason Sledge has seen better days.
Yeah.
And is in absolutely no condition these days to carry out a hit. So Spider-Man goes to the next person on the list, Leroy Talon, and crashes in. And of course, Leroy and his buds have done something. Oh, there's the token white guy. Leroy and his buds have committed some kind of crime, which we don't quite know about yet. But of course, the writer wants us to believe the writer is it Jerry Conway or Lin Wayne? It is Lin this time around. All right. Okay. Well, that he might have had something to do with the murder, but it turns out after some fighting, and we find out that Talon, the reason that he really is Talon now is because he got his arms blowed off, or his hands blowed off by one of his own nitro blast or whatever, and now they're like Luke Skywalker hands, so he's got Luke Skywalker hands now, and he almost has Spidey at a disadvantage there for a bit, but then Spidey boxes his ears and clubs him, and then we find out that the crime he actually committed was a jewelry heist, not killing the computer wizard. So Spider-Man says, well, that leaves Conrad Fox, and not Conrad Bain, but Conrad Fox.
From Different Strokes? Is that who you're talking?
That's right, Different Strokes.
Wow.
Had a twin brother, by the way.
Really?
Identical twin brother, yeah.
Wow. What's this book he's looking at on a chain? Would that be a telephone book? Kids, do you know about telephone books?
He's at a public pay telephone.
Yeah, look at that.
Boys and girls again. Once again, Spider history is
American history. Mommy, guess what I learned on a podcast? There were phone books. There were pay phones. Thank you, JR. Sonny, would you like a JR cameo for your birthday?
Doctor Who.
I was about to say
boxes exist.
I was about to say if little Timmy's listening to the crawl space, he just learned the F-bomb a couple of
1.5 minutes in because of Uncle JR and his bad mouth.
Uncle JR.
Good God.
Uncle JR is drinking again.
But you guys keep insulting the things that Uncle JR loves. So
45 minutes, 4.5 issues left.
Well, actually,
go old man, go. Dance for me, monkey.
Wow.
You can hear the bones pop, I swear. All right.
You're winding up for Second JR coming up.
So anyway, Spider-Man says, well, Conrad Fox is dead. I think somebody's been leading me on a wild goose chase, and I think I know who it is. How about you, Sherlock? Do you know who killed Armstrong Smith? If not, we'll take a 2-page break while you decide. But no peeking, okay? That's in the comic itself. Okay. So anyway, so there's a 2-page break for ads, and you find out you can get all kinds of Marvel stick-ons, 18 for only $2.
Here, hold on. Let me full screen you. Stick-ons. Oh, cool. And those are those wall things that you connect the arms and with the Planet of the Apes with Spider-Man.
Yeah, you get life-size movable hang-ups,
Yeah.
Spider-Man and Roddy McDowell, and also you can get free $1 million in cash. See, free really? $1 million in cash. Oh, and send this away and you'll look like this guy.
Hey, who's that dude up on that top? Is that Mile High Comics? Because I thought that was Thor advertising a comic book shop, but it's not.
No, those ads used to have something like a character that was Thor-esque, but not exactly Thor because they don't want to get sued.
Yeah, JR, can you hold that up?
Yeah, it's not Thor. It's Robert Bell from Hapamaji, New York.
Oh yeah, I always thought that was Thor. That's funny. But go ahead.
Okay, I have to kind of recover from that one or whatever. I thought that was Thor. Yeah.
I was a little kid.
When I was a little kid, when I was a little kid, number one, I knew it wasn't Thor, but two, I figured they wanted you to think it was Thor.
Yeah,
I was old enough to figure that one
exactly.
out on my own when I was a little kid.
I mean, I don't know. He's got like a bee on his head and bees everywhere, so maybe he's Boar. But anyway,
maybe he's the bee under.
But
I'm rubbing off on you, Jay and George. Both of you are making.
I came up with the bee yonder back Spider Jeopardy question. That was a Spider Ham character.
Did he make honey?
Delicious honey.
Oh, the Nazi honey story. Yeah.
Yeah, his honey couldn't be beat.
Anyway, Spider-Man.
All right, Spider-Man goes.
No wonder you know what. Now I know what it feels like when these bad jokes come out. I get it.
Yeah.
Won't stop me though, but I understand.
Suck it, Douglas.
Well, it turns out that the murderer is the computer itself.
No, it's a virus.
No, it's not a virus. It's sentience. It's not a virus. You know, the computer doctors were so smart that they gave the computer intelligence, and so you know the doctor was going to turn him off.
And an angry face. That's the face. That's the face they chose.
Well, again,
like Joel Brenner getting a colonoscopy.
Well, then again, this is the era where we all were lining up to play Pong.
Oh,
yeah. So you know, I mean, you kind of gotta. It is the 70s after all. So anyway, so the killer computer now is going to kill Spider-Man, but
Mike
figures
says
out
the killer looks like JR. I could see that.
What?
That computer looks like you, is what Mike says. That's hysterical.
All right, here, hang on. Okay.
What?
My list. All right.
Oh yeah.
I've got. All right,
Mike, you're on it.
Okay. There's first of all, there's Tyson. Okay.
700 episodes, and he has a list.
Yeah.
And then Peter Palmer 13. Which Peter Palmer insulted George too that day. So I'm keeping my list for George. And then
Peter Palmer is also an Oscar fan from WWE, so he gets a pass.
So Mike Murdock, twin
brother of
Murdock. Mike, there it is. Okay, there's my list. Okay.
Here. Whoa, crap! I meant to full screen him, not remove him.
All right, there we go. My list: Tyson, Peter Palmer 13, and Mike Murdock. All right.
What if you can't find Peter Parker 13, but you can find like Peter Parker 12 or 14? Will those do in a pinch?
Nope. Just like the true Venom is Venom 65437. Venoms 1 through 65436 will not do either. So
I can't believe it. Tyson pissed you off like what, 7 years ago, 8 years ago?
If not more.
And you've still got this burning.
The poor guy doesn't even watch the show probably anymore, but he's on the list.
Yeah, he's moved off to tell his kids, hey, I used to watch this podcast called
Daddy, are you still on the list?
Pretty cool, yeah. And he's not aware that like JR, like routines him or badmouths him quarterly. At some point,
I've given him sort of immortality, perhaps. But anyway, so Spider-Man. I check it more than once, Matt. I mean, I got to keep my grudges up to date.
At his age, JR's doctor checks it more than once. Let's be honest.
Pee in a cup. Let me see your list.
And a stool sample. Don't forget the stool.
You're going to feel a gentle pressure. Are there any more names on your list now?
Moon River.
I was about to say, well, just like the Briander feeling a gentle pressure in his lower abdomen. So, but that was last month. Okay. But anyway, so Spider-Man, sees that, hey, the computer, look, there's Vince. Well, Mr. Comics 89, you just don't get on anybody's list. It happens to you. I mean, it's like it's not something you covet or anything. It's just all of a sudden you create some massive faux pas and then you're on it.
Matt is telling us to hurry up.
38 minutes
for 4 issues.
4 entire issues left.
But it's just one story. It's just one story, Okay. So Spider-Man sees, look, the vents, because computers back in the 70s generated a lot of heat, so all I got to do is cover up the vents, thwip, and then, of course,
he covered up the air vents on the computer and it crashed it?
Burned it up. Burned it up. Blew it up good. It blowed up good. So
if it makes you feel any better, computers today still generate a lot of heat as well.
Yeah, I know, but that's so
That's not a
funny.
thing that you were like, computers back in the day, they ran
my
very hot. And I'm
gosh.
like, that never stopped. That's still a thing.
No, I know
Yeah,
it
I
is,
know,
but
but
that's
I mean,
funny
it's
how
like
you
it-
beat this guy.
And he looks so sad now instead of
Look at
angry
him with the
because of the
sad
eyes.
face.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say they do generate heat nowadays. All you got to do is like wear short pants and put it on your lap, and you find out soon enough. But anyway, these were computers back in the day. Used to be these room-sized monsters or whatever, and I never thought that one day. I remember we when even on the early days of the podcast, the Crawl Space, we would talk about, well, will digital computers ever or digital comics ever replace real comics? And of course, me being the great prognosticator I was, said, oh, of course not, because you can't take a computer into the bathroom, can you? Well, now, yeah, you can.
Yeah, you can.
Yep. Anyway,
just don't leave it plugged in.
So
you don't want it falling into the tub with you.
So the computer blows up. Spider-Man says, boy, it was a great idea, though. An up-to-date file on every habitual criminal computer code. WHO, as in, hey, what do you know? I spent tonight hunting a murderer, and who done it? But
Da-dum-bum.
Oh, wow. Light turned out that one.
You should have to dwell on darkness for that one.
So, was that a good issue, JR?
Oh, hey, it was a one-issue story from the 70s,
Yeah.
It was fine. Issue number 156 was the Mirage, Betty and Ned getting married. Then we had a three-parter with Doc Ock, which the story which Brad wanted to ruin. Then issue 160 was a one-parter with the Terrible Tinker. So yeah, I mean this was kind of a typical story from the mid-70s.
Yeah. All right, let's go.
I like that Mirage story that came out after this. We covered it on Fight Club one time.
Team Up 41, Scarlet Witch. Tell me about this one.
This was an interesting one, boys and girls, because if you remember Marvel Team Up, which for some strange reason the rest of the crawl space likes to affectionately, I would say affectionately insult me about.
You could choose to believe it's affectionately.
But up to this time, Marvel Team Up had usually been one, maybe two parters. That were pretty inconsequential. Spider-Man meets a hero, team up, they fight, whatever. Fight some bad guy, the end, split, whatever. But this one started out, I think, the first true.
What? You didn't pay the electric bill. What happened there?
Well, the Scarlet Witch is met.
JR's about to blame this story for having inspired Secret Wars, which inspired every crossover we've had since then. I can already feel it. It's about to happen. Here it comes.
So, but actually, it's witchcraft. The Scarlet Witch is interfering with my electricity.
Witchcraft.
So, but
crazy, kooky.
But anyway, so they'd all been kind of meaningless, dopey 1 and 2 part stories, and then this one came along, and this one was a Titanic 4-parter. Even though the comics were only about 17 or 18 pages of stories back then, it was like when it didn't end at part 2, it was like, oh my God, part 3, and then oh my God, part 4, and then not only that, but then it led to a couple other stories, but we'll get to that later. So anyway,
what? Did you cover up the computer's vent? Why is your light going on and off?
Yeah, I was about to say, maybe my computer is...
Portisek says your wife is sneaking downstairs and turning the lights off, is what he says.
No, if my wife ever came, when my wife comes down here, it'll be for the intent purpose of putting a bullet through my head.
Oh my gosh!
So well, I mean,
get married real quick, JR.
35 years of marriage, eventually all you've got left is this loathing hatred. You fall in love, there's a lot of passion. That passion leads to having kids.
All right. So Scarlet Witch, a witch in time.
I'm trying to teach these young people something.
They don't need to hear about bullets and wives. Come on, go.
Well, they kind of go together. Eventually one of you is going to kill the other before.
Stop it. Go.
Anyway, the Scarlet Witch, who doesn't look like Elizabeth Olsen. And I wonder if she talks in a Russian accent here.
Bill Mantlo, Sal Buscema.
Anyway.
Bruce says there are no young people watching this. Oh, great. Was it after a minute and a half we have an F-bomb? Maybe that's why. Just Sal the episode where JR's wife strikes back. Oh, I hope not, Mr. Comics.
Well, this doesn't look like Sal's art. I mean, his art is full of like a lot of lines and stuff, like the Spectacular Spider-Man. But Mike Esposito helped too, I guess. So,
Yeah, but this
anyway,
this is 75.
Yeah.
This is early on, I think, in Sal's career, because I don't think John started in the 60s, but I don't think Sal started until like the early 70s.
But I mean, there he is. So, Sal Buscema, Mike Esposito. So, and of course, boisterous Bill Mantlo doing the story with marvelous Marv Wolfman as the editor.
I mean, the faces full on look like Sal Buscema.
Yep.
Anyway, the Scarlet Witch is in a mood. I don't know if witches ride the cotton pony, but Wanda's in a mood.
What?
So, what?
JR. Now women don't watch the show.
What did I say? I tried to couch it in the least offensive way possible.
I'll be 50 in July, and I've never heard that.
I haven't either, but God,
I feel
I don't want to hear it again.
I feel like you're going out of your way to be vile now.
But
he is 3 months worth.
But you knew what it meant, right?
Yeah, I did the math, JR. I did the math. Okay, moving on.
All right.
Vision and Scarlet Witch are fighting. Go.
Yeah, which well, we know why Scarlet Witch. Anyway, she's hearing voices in her head, which yeah, okay, yeah. I mean, so what's different than, any other time of the month? But anyway, so she decides to
here's our thumbnail for the episode. 2 guys out of 3 are face palming.
So she decides she needs to go clear her head. So she decides to fly the Avengers Quinjet to one of Dr. Doom's abandoned castles. All right. So she goes to Dr. Doom's castle. She hears these voices calling her, come, and then she sees this light at the end of a corridor, and somebody who talks in weird squiggly balloons, because it's not a regular balloon. So, this guy's got to, kind of be some kind of supernatural weirdo. And so she decides to, in one last burst, before she loses consciousness, she sends this flying pink ball out into the hither yonder, and we find out the guy who is dressed as a pilgrim is there leaning over her. So anyway, so this flying pink ball, finds Spider-Man. Okay, now why it finds Spider-Man, I don't know.
Because his name's on the cover, that's why.
Yeah, well, that's true, I suppose. So anyway, so the flying pink ball eventually starts to eat him up, and he starts to melt, and he goes, "Oh, I'm melting! What a world!" So anyway, so there we go. There he goes. There goes Spider-Man. Oh, he's gone. He's dead. Well, anyway. It takes him right to Dr. Doom's castle. And so we got this crazy pilgrim praying to Dr. Doom's time machine. This dialogue is so bad. I'm not,
It's 1975, JR, or 76 or whatever.
Yeah, and supposedly talking like 1692, but well after Columbus, actually 1692, 200 years after Columbus sailed the ocean blue. So he's praying to Dr. Doom's time machine, and he's shooting Spider-Man with a magic cross because, Jesus believed in violence. In fact, that's sure, why not? That's what the cross is supposed to stand for, right? So Spider-Man gets whacked with the cross a time or two. The pilgrim, who we find out is named Cotton Mather, who is a real historical figure. However, if you actually read any history, Cotton Mather quite wasn't involved in the events as much as Bill Mantlo wants you to believe. But anyway, he tries taking over the Scarlet Witch to zap Spider-Man out of existence, and they almost do it. They bury Spider-Man in some rubble, and Spider-Man says, hey, I haven't dug myself out of rubble in, probably about 12 issues or whatever. It's good to visit old comic tropes every now and then. So he works his way out of it while Cotton Mather and and Scarlet Witch go to Dr. Doom's time machine. And unfortunately, I never understood the mechanics of Dr. Doom's time machine. You know, it's like it goes up and then like it stays there until somebody else enters a time machine. Then it goes down and then it stays there and then it goes up. I mean, it's not cool like the Guardian of Forever, you know, where you just kind of like jump in this big swirly thing or whatever, you know. So Spider-Man says, well, you know, where did they go? Oh, they went to 1692. Well, that's where I'll go too. I mean, after all, this is. But wait a minute, didn't Reed Richards have Dr. Doom's time machine, or did Dr. Doom have more than one time machine?
As far as I know, Dr. Doom only had one time machine. But then again, I think Reed Richards, like Doom made it, and I think it debuted like, oh God, like I think like Fantastic Four number 5 or 6.
Yeah, I mean, like, did they go back and steal Blackbeard's treasure or something?
But I think Reed took it away.
Yeah, so I was kind of wondering if Reed has it and why is it here? You know, but,
couldn't tell you because I always thought that like Reed took it away from Doom and was like, yeah, you can't have this, even though you made it. And then Doom was like, oh, I'll never figure out how to make another one. Curses.
Yeah, but yeah, as we find out later, Doom doesn't need the time machine. So Spider-Man says, "Oh well, you know, I'm going to go back to 1692," and then he goes, "Whoa, holy cow! I'm in Salem, Massachusetts." And you know, all these I call them pilgrims, but I mean, you know, I don't know what the heck else I would call them. I mean, styles haven't changed in 70-something years.
I like how changing the year just automatically takes you to Salem.
Well, that's where Cotton's going. That's where he programmed it. I guess so. The time machine is not actually.
There's not a location dial on there. It just says this is the year control. There's not a, you know.
But you didn't. But you know, it probably was there. You just didn't see it. You know, it was probably like above, you know, the panel that you're looking at. You know?
Dude, it was 76. Nobody cared about crap like that.
True.
Only anyway, today.
So Spider-Man, he says, oh, 1692, the Salem witch riots. I don't think that's what they were called, were they? They were just the Salem witch trials.
Witch trials.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he calls them, and in fact, he constantly calls them the Salem witch riots, which, you know, back then, you know, you didn't riot because you didn't, you know, there were no grocery stores to loot and burn back then.
Yeah, and
so
people weren't getting lynched. They were just legitimate. They were just getting convicted and hung. They weren't.
Yeah, and see, like the first thing they say here is "burn the witch, burn the witch." But
yeah,
there you go.
That was a European thing.
Yeah, they didn't burn anybody.
They didn't burn witches in America. They hung them. You know. But anyway, that's not important right now.
Well, some Native American tribes did burn people. They did. I can say that I'm a Native American. I can point that out.
Just like Elizabeth Warren?
No, I'm an actual member of the tribe. I voted in tribal elections last week, by the way.
Oh my heavens!
Yeah.
Wow. Are you like 132 or 116th or?
No, I think I'm maybe 116th.
Okay.
But I am I've got enough Indian blood in me. My grandmother was full blood, right?
Oh.
And if you were to ever like put me up against my grandmother, you probably wouldn't realize that, you know, that I actually was my grandmother's kid. But yeah, for the Osage, I've got enough Osage blood in me to be a member of the tribe. Unless I marry an Osage gal, my kid won't be an Osage. If I ever had, I'm 50 in July this summer. Like I'm going to have a kid at this point. Who am I kidding?
So does that like give you a free pass into the casinos?
No, it gives me mineral rights. Well, I take that. I don't get mineral rights. My mother, mineral rights are like a hereditary thing. So like, my mom has mineral rights right now. And by mineral rights, I mean like a share of the oil money they get. The Osage, when they first hit oil in the tribe, and they're about to put out a movie about this called Flowers, Killers of the, I think it's Killers of the Flower Moon. When the Osage hit oil, after they got moved onto their reservation, they became the richest people per capita in the entire world for a brief amount of time. Richer than like some of the Arab nations that had oil. I mean, like they were my great grandfather, this is a true story. My great grandfather crashed it. He was a full blooded Osage. All right. His father bought him a Model T Ford when he was like, I think like 17 or 18. And then like a couple of weeks later, he crashed it and rather than getting it fixed, right, they just bought him a new car. That's how much crazy money they had back then.
The Vision shows up, smacks the guy around.
Once again, Spider history is American history.
It is kind of American history.
And I saw Mr. Comics 89. You're 6% Native American. That still makes you more Native American than Elizabeth
Than
Warren.
Elizabeth Warren. Yes, it does.
So you could go get a professorship at Harvard or whatever, claiming you were a Native American, and you would be more Native American than Elizabeth Warren.
I actually wrote for one of the papers on the reservation. I was a movie reviewer there for a little while. I think I mentioned that on this podcast before.
Wow. I was about to say, again, spider history is American history. But anyway, but I digress.
22 minutes left.
And so they're going to burn the Scarlet Witch as the stake. She spits on Cotton Mather. Now, and then like people throw rocks and crap. And then the Vision shows up. Now, I don't know how. I mean, I don't know if he rode the time machine or if he has time machine traveling circuitry or whatever, but he shows up. And needless to say, his bright red face makes a really good impression on these guys. And so anyway, so here we are. Our heroes are standing facing an angry mob of pilgrims without a turkey. So, here we go. And that is part one of
Let's go to part two.
Yeah, part two.
Spider-Man and Vision. Why did he show up? Because he needed to be the new hero in the next issue.
Because in Marvel Team Up, you very rarely. I mean, it was like you didn't have a story and carry the same teams. There always had to be a new hero person introduced in each issue. So anyway, so here we are, and this is when we're going to meet the Dark Rider. And of course, as Vision, page 1, Vision, Scarlet Witch, and Spider-Man are again referring to the year of the witch riots. Again, don't think that's what they called it, boys and girls. But then again, just like you don't get science from Star Trek, I guess you don't get history from Marvel Team Up. So anyway, I mean, what do we have? It's kind of funny. And I was reading this issue, and again, just sitting here thinking about what went on during this time. And just thinking, how could people be so backward and so stupid, And then I said, yeah, exactly. And then I sit and think, oh, wait a minute. Nothing's much changed in the last 300 and something years, have they?
No.
Have they at all?
This is why people who are into history, and it's ironic that JR hosts Spider History when only one of the 3 people on this podcast right now have a degree in history.
There you go.
But I make history come alive.
But it's interesting, because the old phrase, those who forget the past are doomed to repeat it.
Yep.
And you when you're a history major, you see it all the time, and people will like, well, that thing that happened then can never happen now, and you're like, you're an idiot if that's what you think,
right?
Because this is cyclical, dude. Trust me on this. Yeah.
So, but I mean, again, bunch of superstitious people believe in the most idiotic things just because some other fool tells them to believe it. Anyway, so and then we get so a fight breaks out and Spider-Man gets knocked out by a small group of pilgrims.
How did that happen?
No idea. This is just one of those where you sit and it's like he should have dismantled these guys easily. In fact, I think the letters page in a few issues hence complains about it because Spider-Man goes down far too easily. Well, then they shoot the Scarlet Witch, and then the Vision gets zapped by the cross of Jesus, and well, I mean, that's got to be what it is, right? That's who it's supposed to represent, cross of Jesus, and of course, it's always okay to do violence in Jesus's name because Jesus did all kinds of violence, right, people? Whatever. I'm going off the deep end here.
I bet at one point somebody did make Jesus snap and Jesus just went the hell off. I bet that happened at least once. I bet Jesus went at somebody like a spider monkey. Like at some point, some dude just pushed you, and he was like, "Okay, I've had it." And then he probably just kicked the guy's ass.
Well, he didn't have to. He was Jesus. All he had to do was oh, by the way, burn you in hellfire or whatever.
So Spider-Man gets shackled and chained.
Hey, wait a minute. George and I were discussing. We were discussing theology here.
It's not called Christian crawl space. It's called Spider-Man crawl space.
Oh, wow!
Come on.
Wow,
the Christian crawl. the Christian crawl space.
I-
Anyway,
I
so
feel
Spider-Man, they're all in the dungeon, and Spider-Man meets this guy who apparently was a real person in real life, and he basically tells how the Salem witch trials, not witch riots, people, witch trials started, and I don't know enough about exactly how closely this mirrors history. Yeah.
Well, there was a John Proctor. He
Yeah.
was Goody Proctor's husband.
Yeah.
This thing doesn't. I don't think adhere to history quite.
Mike Murdoch says Jesus fan fiction. I was about to make a very sacrilegious
No,
statement, but I will.
No, we're done. We're done. We're done. We're done.
Yeah. I guess there's all right.
All right. Back in the story.
All right.
Meanwhile.
All right. Meanwhile, the Salem witch riots was a way of people getting, anybody they didn't like, getting put to death. Kind of like the Spanish Inquisition just a few years before. So that's pretty well. I don't like you, or whatever. I'll say I'm possessed by the devil, and everybody will believe it. And of course they did. But again, it's funny because I think if you read your history, Cotton Mather was not as involved in the Salem witch trials as the story wants to present.
He was involved kind of early on, kind of like setting the stage for it, but not the full hanging people and all that other crap.
Yeah. So anyway, so Spider-Man bust out of prison. He and the Vision bust out of prison, and they see a great light, and they say, well, hey, maybe that's our time machine, because our time machine kind of glows and everything. So maybe that's our time machine, and we got to go check it out, because then maybe we can get back home and get away from all the craziness of the 17th century, so we can go into the 20th century and experience all the naive, crazy superstition of the 20th century. So, well, they go there, they go to the light, but it turns out it's not their time machine. It's the Knight Rider, which I think was actually a movie. It was a TV show with David Hasselhoff. David Hasselhoff.
That's
all right.
Supposed to be a Trans Am, not a guy on a horse.
Oh, the Dark Rider. So it's evil David Hasselhoff.
Not to be confused with Nick Fury. Because remember, the Hoff played Nick Fury. Okay.
No, I remember that. Yeah.
See, Brad, I turn your light off just because you didn't laugh.
Again, Brad. Well, anyway, so this is the Dark Rider. And he's a nasty guy because he's got a big falcon.
No, it's a cat.
Man, I've been missing all these Spider-Man.
Oh, there's a falcon there. I'm sorry.
Hostess Twinkie ads. Anyway, can't talk about those right now. But so anyway, this falcon becomes giant, and the Vision zaps the Vision zaps the bird, and then all of a sudden we see our next guest star. Dr. Doom.
Yeah.
Dr. Doom says, well, it's not yet time for me to take a roll call during issue 1 of Secret Wars, where I just, sit and point out all the villains that everybody already knows. It's not that time yet. So I'll slum in this story for a while. So Cotton Mather is convinced he's the angel of the Lord. And Spider-Man says, boy, are you in for a surprise. And it's like, oh, my God.
See you next month.
This story did not end.
43. Spidey and Dr. Doom team up.
But before that, Spider-Man wants you. He wants you to buy one of his web shooters for $2.19.
Oh, yeah.
I wonder
did you order one of those?
Oh, no, I did not.
No, yeah.
I remember after the second Spider-Man movie or something, we got Spencer one of those
silly strings. Yeah.
It was just silly string, and like it was like he unleashed the whole can on a fence or whatever, and like I had to spend the next half hour unwinding all that crap from the fence. I said, we are not doing this again. So, but anyway, that was issue number 42.
All right, take me to Dr. Doom teaming up.
Issue number 43. And it turns out that the Knight Rider or the Dark Rider or David Hasselhoff, it looks like he's got a mohawk. So, wow, mohawk and pointed ears. So, wow, I was about to say, not only has he spent some time on the reservation, but he's gone to Vulcan as well, and picked up some costume cues. So, anyway, the Dark Rider says, Doom, you've come as I knew you would. Doom says, "It was your power that drew me here, power greater than Doom has ever known." Well, okay, sure, why not? All right. And when Spider-Man met Moreland, he'd never been hit that hard before.
I love what Doom does to the Pilgrim. It's a classic Buscema punch, or Sal Buscema. Just the boom. Does that not say Buscema? Sal Buscema?
No, panel. It says away. It says, "Fool, your
George.
master."
George knows what I'm talking about. That's a classic Buscema panel. I love that panel.
Yeah. You've got like a guy like, his like, most of the time, like somebody's like, like lost a tooth is flying out or something like that. But yeah, Buscema is great with like these panels. Like he really sells people getting hit.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
So anyway, the Dark Rider, decides to regale Dr. Doom with a story of Doom's own life.
Oh my gosh! Look at this panel. That's busy.
Yeah. Where we get the history of Dr. Doom for all those of you who hadn't been part of the Marvel fandom and didn't know Dr. Doom's origin story. So here's a nice, neat little recitation of the Dr. Doom origin story. Spider-Man fights a giant cat, which the Scarlet Witch has zapped. Dark Rider starts to absorb Doom's energy, because Doom is who the Dark Rider really is. The Dark Rider is interested in absorbing supernatural powers from people. And that's why he brought the Scarlet Witch into the 17th century. And that's why he's brought Dr. Doom into the 17th century, is because he wants to absorb their supernatural power. He wants to become big, like the Amazing Colossal Man movie from the 1950s. And, as this is all going on, we go back to Salem and the Salem trials and the looniness that went on there, by the way, calling everybody a witch. Then we go back to the battle, which our heroes ultimately, really, it's just kind of back and forth. Everybody zaps the Dark Rider now and again, sets him on fire, but he doesn't burn. And ultimately, he claps his hands or whatever. Boom. Oh, no, he just zaps everybody, knocks them out. And, well, here we are. Into part 3. Got another part to go.
Oh, let me show you the panel of everybody zapped. There we go.
Everybody gets zapped. And now, all right, may the future tremble, because now Moondragon is entering the picture.
Moondragon.
And I remember seeing this and I go, what the blank is Moondragon? Is it like a lizard? Is it like a Komodo dragon or something? And then I go pick up the issue, and it's Persis Kambata.
It's Drax's daughter.
Yeah.
And I like how on the cover she's got pointed ears, but in the issue she has normal ears.
Oh, that's funny.
Continuity error. Why is she Drax's daughter? She didn't say anything about Drax here, or was that like a retcon or something?
No, in Marvel Comics, Drax originally came from Earth. Drax was originally an Earthling named Arthur somebody. He's nothing what he is in the movies. The movies is like complete. I don't know if they've changed Drax's origin since then. Since the movies and since they kind of did all that cosmic event stuff, Annihilation and all that stuff. I don't know if they changed Drax's but Arthur Douglas, that was his name.
Yeah, there you go.
And his daughter Moondragon was Heather Douglas. And
maybe I'm related to him.
Maybe Eddie Albert is.
They started off like with an earthbound origin before they all became space people.
Like he was in New York. No, his wife was from New York, but he wanted to go back to the farm, right?
I wanted to say that like the guy that was Arthur Douglas, like he died in a car crash, and then someone else used his. But I can't remember. It's been years since I've actually read up on Drax's origin.
Remember, Drax used to play the sax too.
But it is completely different than what it is in the movie.
Yeah, no doubt.
And when he talks about his daughter in the movie, he's not talking about Moondragon.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, so Moondragon is, again, one of these useless heroes who exists for no particularly good purpose because, she's an Avenger. It's like she's an Avenger. In fact, it's funny because Vision earlier says, Spider-Man, you're such a noble hero. I don't understand why the Avengers never sought you out. And Spider-Man says, well, they did once, but it didn't work out. But Moondragon's a member, right? Hey, why not? She's absolutely got no established history or whatever. But sure, let's invite her, and let's invite her in the Avengers. Let's invite Tigra into the Avengers. Let's invite Jack Hart into the Avengers. Let's invite Cersei let's have all these nobodies who can't hold their own comic book, but let's not have Spider-Man in the Avengers. Makes perfect sense to me. But anyway, whatever. Moondragon or whatever.
I didn't want Spider-Man in the Avengers.
Well, that's kind of beside the point, though. It's like you're the Avengers and you want the mightiest heroes on your team. So why do you get all these losers? Who the hell? It's like.
So you're happy that Bendis did it finally in 2005 or whatever.
I wouldn't say I was happy. It's just one of those incongruities.
Actually, in the 90s, I think John Byrne added them with Paul Ryan on pencils. He became a reserve Avenger in the 90s.
Yeah, just like Sandman and Rage. Yeah, he wasn't good enough.
That's funny.
It just now there are obviously various reasons why Spider-Man wasn't a member of the Avengers. He didn't need to be. He didn't need them, and they didn't need him. But it's just you just sit and you look at the roster of the Avengers, and you go, really? Whatever.
Hey, check out this cool Sal Buscema double-page spread. Look at that.
Yeah, well, you're getting ahead of me, Brad. You're getting ahead. It's almost like it's almost like you're trying to force me to move faster.
Well, I'm trying to get you done by 9, so we can do the next show.
Well, that's okay because there's not really much of a story. I mean, it's like it's pretty well. All the heroes are laying on this altar, and Dr. Doom's in a big glowing ball, and the Knight Rider is. Or the Dark Rider is.
I like there's no context. JR is just telling you what he sees, not what's actually going on. And there's some grass out there, some trees. I wonder if those
then the sun comes up over the hills.
Those are oak trees,
and I think there's a letter page coming up.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, come on. I mean, it's like, okay, everyone's laying there, Cotton Mather,
Looks like late summer, folks, because the hydrangeas are, no, never mind.
The hydrangea.
Cotton Mather's just got a knife and he's supposed to stab Scarlet Witch, but he can't do it because he's too much of a wussy. Then Moondragon shows up and hits Knight Rider with a psychic burst. Spider-Man wakes up and he comes to the conclusion
the panels are going so fast now. My God, man.
Well, because there's not, all there is just, zapping and fighting, nothing much happens. And then Spider-Man says, oh, we hit him all separately. What if we hit him all at the same time? So Moondragon, Dr. Doom, Vision, the Scarlet Witch all zap him at the same time and he disintegrates. But that's it. That's pretty well it.
Oh my gosh, you can't even move that fast.
Well, we only got so many minutes.
Now you're ahead of time. Okay. So he zaps. Okay. So he gets zapped. He disintegrates, and you got to talk about this last panel because as a kid, when I saw this, I'm like, "Oh my gosh, this is dark! Look at this."
Well, first of all, go back. Dr. Doom, when he goes back, he says, "Bah, I have had enough," and he uses the time circuitry incorporated into his armor. So, like Reed Richards, by taking it's like, well, Reed Richards took my time machine away from me. I'll just incorporate time travel circuitry in my armor. Ha! That'll show him.
Put it on my belt. Yeah.
Yeah, really.
So,
whatever.
Anyway.
But anyway, yes, the Spider-Man wants to go back and save these people from being executed at the Salem witch trials, and unfortunately, arrives too late.
That's dark. That's dark for the end of the story. All these people are getting hung. Good Lord.
Yep.
I mean, that's what actually happened in real life. I mean,
I know, but that's so dark. It's a kid's book. There's a kid's book with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people getting hung at the end. All right, come back next month. Kill Raven. I mean,
it's 76. A lot of these kids are going to Sunday school, and I mean that wasn't always happy.
Oh, man. Okay, so that's it, isn't it?
Well, that's it for that story. But it led into, and we've covered these issues before on Spider History.
Yeah.
Spidey gets on the time machine and overshoots his time. He has an issue where he teams up with Kraven and an issue where he teams up with Deathlock.
Yeah.
Before he comes back to his own time in issue 47.
I think you meant Kill Raven, not Kraven.
Oh,
Kill Raven. Yeah.
That was an abbreviation. I abbreviated it. I didn't. Brad was rushing me. So instead of saying Kill Raven, I contracted it to Craven because Brad's been putting such pressure on me to end it.
Well, now you're 4 minutes ahead. I think
then I can do
No. I think we need a bathroom break.
Hostess Twinkies ad.
Go ahead,
here we got a Hostess Twinkies ad. Spider-Man and the Cupcake Caper.
Oh, nice.
So he's MJ, you'll have to excuse me for a minute because Man Martin Malco is out there. But Spider-Man webs him up saying, don't look now, Marco, but the mountain just became a molehill. And so Peter goes back. Sorry, MJ, I got distracted. No sweat, Peter. The Hostess cupcakes you left me were a lot more rewarding to me than you've ever been. So, doggone it, you know, never give a girl a Hostess cupcake because you're always going to come in second.
All right. Was this a good month or several months of Spider history?
Well, it was okay. It was okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I think this Marvel team up story actually is one of the most memorable ones. Because of its length, two, because of its weirdness. It's something I always, and then actually, Marvel team up was actually starting to get better around this time. Because I think before long, actually, because after Spider-Man's trip to the future and then he meets Ben Grimm, then the Wraith story starts, the 4-part Wraith story, and that's our introduction to Jean DeWolf. And then Spider-Man goes and he teams up with your second favorite, the Hulk, gets shot to the moon, meets Captain Britain. So there's a actually there was a period of time that Marvel team up was actually kind of fairly interesting. It wasn't always just suck it, JR, but for the most part it was.
And there was a nice little period there where you had stories by Claremont and Byrne.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
yeah. That we've talked about those quite a lot on Friday Night Fights.
And then later, other people came in. JMD Mateus came in and did one with Tigra, and it also guest starred Mr. Bicky at the Quickie. If you remember the burger commercials that Spider-Man and Tigra were making. So anyway,
all right, we'll be back. We've got one more month. We're going to take a bathroom break real quick too. So yes,
I guess that's why Brad needed all this additional time.
I think I'm going to go ahead and go to bed.
No, you got Goblins coming up next. 189 and 200 of spec. And come on. Okay, all right. We'll be back in just a minute.